I never intended to grow into a villain. But sometimes you realize you've been used your entire life, and your only choices are to keep bending or break free so violently that you terrify everyone who thought you'd always roll over. My name is Ethan, and I was supposed to be a dutiful son, a compliant fiancé, a loving brother. Yet with each weary day, I've learned that soft-hearted fools get trampled. I was set to marry Vanessa, a polished princess, used to having men grovel. We'd been together just short of 2 years, and though I ignored her shallowness at first, I swore I saw glimpses of genuine warmth. That was before the knee injury, before everyone abandoned me as if I were an inconvenient piece of furniture. A tear in my cartilage turned out to be a tear in my illusions. A single betrayal can be forgiven, but what happens when it multiplies? When the fiancé you trust hooks up with your brother? When your parents let you rot in the basement after surgery? When they all conspire to shame you, then sue you for refusing to keep paying for a wedding that's a sick joke? I suppose that's when a kernel of rage takes root. I spent years sacrificing for them, and I got nothing but lies. Maybe a decent man would walk away, but I chose war. And I won't pretend I'm the hero of this story. It began with my ACL surgery 4 weeks before the wedding. I tore the ligament playing a casual weekend game of basketball. An unlucky pivot, a snap, and fired nerves shooting up my thigh. That injury left me limping around in humiliating pain. My father, David, barked that I should have been more careful. My mother, Harriet, arranged doctors, but never stuck around for more than a cursory, "You'll be fine, dear." Vanessa acted concerned at first. She'd smile sweetly at the hospital, stroke my hair, promise to care for me in sickness and in health. But the second I came home, she vanished into wedding planning mania, always too busy to pass me an ice pack or help me up the stairs. My younger brother, Eric, never liked me much. But I still believed, stupidly, that family loyalty would outweigh personal grudges. I was wrong. They all claimed they'd rotate to help me recover. Yet the day after I was released, they left on a ski trip they'd apparently booked months ago. "We can't cancel now," Eric told me. "It's non-refundable. You're a grown man." So I was stranded in my parents' basement, the only occupant in a large, silent house. That was the first real sting. The ones who rattled on about family values had no qualms bailing. I was outraged, but not yet set on revenge. I simply internalized my anger, telling myself they'd come around. I hobbled around on crutches, rationing my pain meds, living off stale chips and leftover soup I could heat in a shaky microwave. When I texted Vanessa, she replied with breezy excuses, or told me she was busy tasting centerpieces with Harriet. Meanwhile, she posted photos of glamorous spa visits. The message rang crystal clear. My role was to be the invisible fiancé, quietly healing, funding the wedding, and never expecting reciprocity. The truth about Eric and Vanessa blindsided me, though maybe it shouldn't have. Eric had always enjoyed humiliating me, stealing my childhood toys, mocking me in front of relatives, belittling me at any chance. Vanessa, with her thirst for excitement, found in him a perfect twisted side project. I learned about it 4 days into my convalescence. Nobody had come by. Not one meal had been delivered despite their solemn promises. My father's earlier vow to take care of any hospital fees turned out to be a bureaucratic mess he'd shoved onto me. So when the ski trip ended and the family returned home, I confronted Eric angrily in the living room, demanding a reason for his absence. He stared me down, hands in his pockets, refusing to offer more than a smirk. "Poor Ethan stuck on the couch," he said. "You couldn't manage a few days by yourself? Pathetic." That's when I saw Vanessa pop up behind him in the doorway. She wore his jacket, her cheeks flushed. She quickly pulled it off, trying to look casual, but the damage was done. She'd come from his bedroom, hair disheveled. Blood roared in my ears. "Explain!" I hissed. Vanessa tossed her long hair and glared. "Don't stare at me like that, Ethan. I owe you nothing." I advanced on them, bracing my weight on my crutch, pain searing my knee. "What the hell is going on?" Eric chuckled. "You can't guess. She's bored with your whining. I'm more fun." For a moment, I couldn't speak. Then I lunged with my crutch, slamming him against the wall. He gasped, but quickly shoved me back. I nearly toppled. My father rushed in, shouting for me to calm down, as though I were the aggressor for wanting an explanation. Seconds later, Vanessa raised her voice. "We're calling off the wedding, Ethan. You're too weak." That's all it took to shatter any illusions that our relationship had substance. Her cold gaze pinned me. I was now worthless in her eyes, a husband candidate too fragile for her taste, and Eric gloated at my shock. My father, David, was outraged, but not at the sordid affair. He was outraged at me for making a scene. The house erupted into shouting. Harriet tried to hush me, telling me to calm down. David glowered, wanting me to fix the tension so we wouldn't embarrass the family. No one scolded Eric or Vanessa for betraying me. Instead, they worried about deposits, caterers, and how it might look if the wedding got canceled. Later that night, I confronted my parents in the kitchen. My knee throbbed. My mind reeled with visions of Eric and Vanessa in my bed. You're focusing on the wedding money, not the fact that your younger son stole my fiancée. My mother sniffed as though I were being dramatic. We paid a lot for this ceremony, Ethan. I stared at her. Vanessa's cheating. Why aren't you upset about that? My father waved dismissively. Eric insists it's not what you think. Even if it were, you can't just run from your obligations. Normal families manage these issues privately. We don't want a scandal. A twisted calm settled in my gut. Their cold disregard stoked something inside me. You want me to manage it? Fine. I glared at them both. I'll handle it my way. I left them guessing what that meant because, at that moment, I wasn't sure myself. All I knew was they chose to side with the golden child and preserve social niceties rather than stand by the son who'd done everything for them. So be it. In the days that followed, I discovered that all the wedding contracts, venue, flowers, catering, photography, were in my name. Dad had insisted it be that way, calling me the reliable one. This quickly transformed into leverage. If they wanted me to keep those contracts afloat, they needed me to sign the final checks. So they begged, cajoled, threatened. My father hammered me with calls about the massive financial losses. Harriet clucked anxiously about relatives who'd started booking flights. Meanwhile, Vanessa ghosted me, ignoring every text or call except once. She demanded I sign final approvals for her dream floral arrangement or she'd drag me through the dirt. She ended that conversation with an icy sneer. No one will side with the guy who can't keep his fiancée satisfied. She didn't realize how deeply that jab cut, but it also fueled me. I started exploring ways to weaponize those contracts. If they wanted me to proceed with a wedding that was already a farce, I'd find a way to twist it into something that'd humiliate them all. The seeds of vengeance sprouted, though the plan was still hazy. I gleaned that Eric was sneaking around behind Lucy's, his wife's, back as well. He'd been married to Lucy for a year, though their relationship was on the rocks. Now, with Vanessa in the mix, it'd only be a matter of time before Lucy found out. That knowledge gave me more potential angles to exploit. I decided it was time to ensure every truth saw the light. Nights became my plotting time. My knee improved enough for me to walk short distances without the crutch. I spent hours combing through every email, text, or clue, piecing together a thorough record of my family's hypocrisy. I had receipts for wedding deposits, messages from Vanessa where she demanded I keep paying or face her wrath, and even scathing voice notes from my mother calling me dramatic. I saved all of it. Let them try twisting the story when I had hard evidence. One afternoon, Lucy visited the house unannounced. She was searching for Eric. The poor woman asked me if I knew why her husband was ignoring her calls. When I told her about his affair, she froze in disbelief. I showed her a text I'd surreptitiously captured from Eric's phone, evidence that he was sneaking Vanessa into a hotel near the slope while everyone else actually went skiing. Her face paled, tears welling. She didn't blame me. Instead, she thanked me for telling the truth. Then she promised to forward me any relevant screenshots from Eric's secret phone if she found them. Allies come from strange places. Days later, Lucy delivered. She discovered entire message chains. Eric telling Vanessa that I was useless and a wet towel. Vanessa responding that I was weak and that she didn't feel a spark. There were graphic photos too. I stored everything on a hard drive. By the time I finished assembling my arsenal, I had a mountain of proof that my brother and ex-fiancé were enjoying each other, that my parents knew something but pretended otherwise, that the happy family sheen was a sham. For once, I smiled at the thought of retribution. Dad summoned me to the living room for a formal talk. Harriet hovered behind him, wringing her manicured hands. Eric was off to the side, arms folded, face twisted in boredom. Vanessa was absent, probably off painting her nails. My father cleared his throat. Ethan, we need to sort out the wedding finances. Vanessa says you're refusing to sign important paperwork. Eric chimed in with a sneer. Coward's punishing her because he can't stand that she found someone better. I stared at them both, letting a moment pass. Then, calmly, I replied, You want me to sign? Let's talk about betrayal first. Let's talk about your precious new fling, Eric. He rolled his eyes. Get over it. She's mine now. Dad shot Eric a warning glance. Don't be crude. Ethan, I understand you're upset, but we must be practical. We've invested thousands. We can't afford to lose these deposits. The date is set. People will arrive soon. I nodded. So your priority is money and appearances. You're part of this family, my mother cut in impatiently. We can't have you ruin everything. Keep your personal issues with Eric quiet. Let's have a civilized solution. I rubbed my chin, feigning agreement. All right, let's do that. I'll sign every contract, finalize the wedding details, but on one condition. Dad's eyes glowed with hope. Name it. I leaned forward. I want a public apology from Eric and Vanessa in front of the entire family. Full confession that they humiliated me. Then I want them to reimburse me for my hospital expenses that Dad said he'd handle but never did. If those things happen, I'll guarantee you a perfect wedding. Eric's lips curled. You're insane. My father's face reddened. Eric doesn't need to apologize for your fragile ego. I shrugged. Then I'm not signing. Suck up the losses or find a new groom. Good luck explaining that to the neighbors. They stared, stunned by my calm arrogance. Harriet tried guilt-tripping me with watery eyes. We're your parents. Don't do this to us, I snapped. You left me alone with a busted knee to go skiing. You let your golden child screw my fiancé. Now you want me to cave? No, you can do it my way or watch everything burn. Silence. Dad's jaw clenched. Eric's nostrils flared. Then Dad hissed, We have no choice but to escalate this, Ethan. My smile was pure ice. Go ahead. I'm eager to see how that works out. Later that week, Vanessa reappeared after a notable absence. She cornered me in the backyard, arms folded under her chest, chin tilted in that superior angle she favored. Ethan, you've got to finalize the florist, or there won't be centerpieces. Don't be a child. I studied her. You cheated on me with my brother, then you all left me stranded after my surgery. Now you want me to do you a favor? She tried that crocodile tears routine, letting her mascara glisten. Look, I made a mistake. You were always complaining about your knee. There was no passion left in us. Eric gave me an escape. But now he's turning out to be complicated. Let's just handle the wedding that's been planned. We can quietly separate afterwards. A low chuckle escaped me. So you want me to stand at the altar next to you, like a puppet groom, just to preserve your reputation, and then we'll quietly divorce once the spectacle is complete? Her cheeks burned. We'd spare the family embarrassment. Everyone can keep their money. You'll look magnanimous. And who knows, maybe you'll even walk away with half the gifts. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. If you ruin this, your father will make sure you regret it. You know he has connections. I hissed a laugh. Threats? How adorable. She tried to keep her composure, but I spotted a tremor in her lip. Look, I'm tired of the drama, Ethan. Just do as they say. We won't bother you afterward. I raised an eyebrow. You think you can keep me from unleashing the truth? You and Eric have no shame, but I'll do as I please, Vanessa. Now get off my property. Her bravado wavered. She eyed me like she wasn't sure who I had become, then whirled around and left. A wave of dark delight rippled through me. I'd never confronted her so directly. Maybe I was done being the family's doormat. Lucy became an unlikely friend. She and I commiserated about being cheated on by the same two snakes. She was furious, determined to divorce Eric, but needed proof to protect her finances. I happily provided every piece of digital evidence. In return, she offered legal advice. Her cousin was a lawyer. That cousin introduced me to a resourceful attorney named Marjorie, who specialized in family disputes and contract law. Perfect. Marjorie listened to my story, raising her brows. Your father and Vanessa's father might sue for breach of contract if you refuse to finalize the wedding. The question is, do they actually have a legally binding agreement, or is it just deposit forms in your name? I shrugged. All the official receipts are in my name, but they fronted the money. They might claim I must go through with the event or repay them. Marjorie smirked. I've seen vengeful parents try. Usually it fails. They can't force you to marry. At worst, you might owe them partial deposits if they prove you knowingly wasted funds. But if you have evidence that they committed fraud or betrayal, it'll weaken their claims. You can also countersue for emotional distress. Hearing her confidence fueled me further. We discussed the possibility of turning the wedding day into a spectacle, letting them try to hold the ceremony, but exposing all their crimes publicly. Marjorie called it scorched earth. That phrase lit a spark in my chest. I was done saving face for traitors. Sure enough, a process server eventually knocked on my door, handing me a thick sheaf of documents. The plaintiffs, David, my father, Harriet, my mother, and Norman, Vanessa's father. The cause: breach of contract, financial damages, emotional distress, reputational harm. They argued I had promised to fulfill a wedding, incurring costs, yet I was refusing out of spite. Truly a family of vipers, Marjorie said, flipping through. They couldn't even wait for a conversation. That's fine, I replied. Let them come at me. I'll see them in court. And when that day arrives, I'm bringing every piece of blackmail I've gathered. She nodded. Be prepared for them to get nasty. They might spin this to paint you as unstable. I thought of my father's cold, condescending voice. Unstable? I've got receipts proving who's truly depraved. My phone exploded with calls from extended family, many scolding me for disrespecting your poor parents and abandoning Vanessa. Rumors swirled that I'd lost my mind, that I was refusing to help with the wedding because I'd become addicted to painkillers, that I'd threatened violence. Lies piled on lies. I neither confirmed nor denied. I wanted them to squirm. One day, Harriet cornered me by the driveway, desperation etched on her face. Stop this, Ethan. Withdraw your countersuit. We can handle everything discreetly. I smirked. Withdrawal? I haven't even dropped the biggest bombs yet. She paled. You wouldn't. If the neighbors hear how dysfunctional we are. I cut her off. They will get used to it. You and Dad had years to do the right thing. Instead, you coddled Eric and let Vanessa stomp all over me. She tried tears. We never meant for you to be hurt. It just happened. Just happened. Hot anger seared my chest. You left me on a couch with a torn ACL to ski with your golden kids. Then when I found out Eric was screwing my fiancé, you told me to keep quiet. I'm done covering for you. She parted her lips, floundering for words, but I turned away, letting her realize the gravity of my new stance. I didn't care if she cried or threatened. I'd tasted the power of telling them no, and I intended to keep feasting on it. Eric came sniffing around soon after, apparently fearing I'd release everything I knew. We can settle this privately, he told me in the garage, voice thick with strain. I'll even pay you some hush money if you want. I scoffed. You think I'm that cheap? He clenched his jaw. I'm trying to keep Lucy from going nuclear, and Vanessa's freaking out about negative press. If you sabotage the wedding, both families lose. Then we're all a laughingstock. Clawing my nails against the metal handle of my crutch, I gave him a venomous stare. You sabotaged it yourself when you took her to bed. But let me guess, Vanessa's not so appealing now that you see the chaos, right? He bristled. We were hooking up for fun. Now everyone's miserable. Fun. Right. I turned away. Tell you what. Testify against Dad in the lawsuit. Admit he and Norman coerced me to keep paying for a sham wedding. Then maybe I won't share your little explicit texts with Lucy's lawyer, or the photos, or the timeline of your entire affair. His eyes flashed panic. That's blackmail. I offered a humorless grin. Call it leverage. You strike me as a man who'd do anything to protect yourself, so do it. I'll be waiting. He cursed me under his breath. But a spineless glint flickered in his eyes. He'd never been one to face consequences. Now he was drowning in them. I relished his desperation. Vanessa ambushed me in the hallway the next day. I could smell her vanilla perfume before I saw her. She blocked my path, arms crossed, lips tight. Eric's turning cold on me, she hissed. He blames me for stirring all this up. How shocking, I said, monotone. Her eyes flickered with frustration. Stop your smug act. Where do you get off thinking you can crush us? You were always the quiet one. I pinned her with a dead-eyed stare. I learned from you and Eric how to step on people. Consider it a gift from my betters. She clenched her fists. This can't go to court. You know how humiliating that'll be? I'll lose everything. You should have thought about that before fooling around with my own brother. You humiliated me. So brace yourself for payback. She seized my sleeve, voice dropping to a trembling whisper. We all do stupid things when we're bored, Ethan. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Don't let your anger ruin your future. We can talk settlement. My father is loaded. He'd pay you off. I jerked free. Shove your hush money. I prefer watching you squirm in court. She spat a curse, tears threatening to spill. Pathetic. Once I'd have felt pity. Now I just saw another manipulator reaping the harvest of her own betrayal. Strangely enough, in the midst of all this turmoil, an unexpected ally surfaced. My older cousin, Naomi. She'd always been the black sheep for refusing to follow the family's superficial rules. Hearing about the fiasco from gossipy relatives, Naomi reached out, offering her empty rental property as a safe haven if I wanted to move out of my parents' place. I took her up on it without hesitating. Hobbling on my brace, I packed essentials into cardboard boxes. My parents watched with stony disapproval. Harriet shrilled, "Where do you think you're going?" "Anywhere that isn't here," I said. "Unless you want to chain me in the basement?" She just gaped, and I walked out of the house, ignoring the dull ache in my knee. A sense of liberation fluttered in my gut. At Naomi's rental, I found a modest but clean one-bedroom. Finally, no more hearing Eric's footsteps overhead or seeing that smug grin. No more lectures from mom or dad about family unity. My exodus was step one in reclaiming sovereignty. A few days later, Dad demanded I return, probably to keep me under watch. I told him to enjoy the quiet. I had better uses for my energy. He threatened to cut me off financially. I laughed in his face, reminding him that I never saw a single dime from him except as manipulative bribes. Then I hung up. With Marjorie's guidance, I filed a countersuit claiming emotional distress, breach of promise, and intentional infliction of mental anguish. Though some might call it petty, it escalated the war exactly how I wanted. I plastered my lawsuit with transcripts of Eric's texts, Vanessa's mocking voice messages, insurance claims left unpaid, and even details of my post-surgery abandonment. Word spread among the relatives. Some called me monstrous for dragging the family name through the mud. Others quietly admired my guts. Harriet tried to phone me in tears again, lamenting how I was punishing everyone. I told her to check the dictionary for punishment and see if it matched deserved consequence. Meanwhile, David and Norman raged about the financial meltdown. The canceled wedding was racking up bills. Guests kept asking if the ceremony was still on. I refused to give them a gracious out, let them scramble. This was my revenge for the nights I bled in silence on that basement couch. One afternoon, I was limping out of my new place to get groceries when my father pulled up in his SUV. He jumped out, suit jacket flapping, face red. "Why are you doing this?" he barked as a few neighborhood onlookers slowed down to watch. I tilted my head. "Doing what? Defending myself?" He advanced on me, fists balled. "We are your parents. We provided for you. You're humiliating us in public. Have you no shame?" I snapped back. "Where was that parental devotion when I was post-surgery, needing help? You left me to starve. And you think you can lecture me on loyalty?" He spat on the pavement. "I will bury you with legal fees. We have resources. You can't win against us." "Try me," I said. "I have more than you know, and I don't care what I lose as long as I take you all down with me." We glared at each other. A breeze rustled the trees, carrying the hush of curious neighbors. Finally, he stormed back into his car and roared away. Let him stew in panic. My father hated losing control. Now I was the one controlling the narrative. That same week, Eric showed up at Naomi's rental, uninvited. I stepped outside to find him pacing the sidewalk, face haggard. "Bro, just hear me out," he said, voice cracking. "Everything's a mess. Lucy's divorcing me, Dad is losing it, Vanessa's meltdown is scaring everyone. I don't even want her anymore." I looked him up and down. "Oh? Tired of the toy you stole from me?" He lowered his gaze. "I'm sorry, okay? I'm not good at apologizing, but I screwed up. Vanessa was exciting. I was bored with Lucy. It just happened. But we can fix this. We're blood." My insides churned with old resentments. "We were only blood when you needed a scapegoat or can't manage your own mess. Get out of my sight." "Wait." He grabbed my arm as I tried to pass. "Help me handle Dad. He's losing his mind about the lawsuit. Just sign off that we'll settle out of court. I'll stand up for you. We'll say you weren't at fault." His desperation was pitiful. "And how does that help me exactly?" He threw his hands up. "You won't have to face a public trial. People will talk about us for years. Let's keep it quiet. You can revoke your countersuit, Dad will drop his, and we'll figure out the finances." I gave him a slow once-over. "No, I want the public fiasco. I want everyone to hear precisely what you and Vanessa did. Then I want them to see Dad's face in the newspapers. A father who sued his own recovering son to protect a worthless wedding. That's my price." He cursed, eyes brimming with angry tears. You're out of your damn mind. I brushed past him. Get used to it. A week later, Vanessa found me after my physical therapy session. She was perched on the hood of her white Lexus, arms folded, waiting in the clinic parking lot. The midday sun highlighted the fury in her eyes. "You're destroying me," she said the moment I approached. "Rotten hell," I replied softly. She clenched her jaw. "You want to see me suffer? Fine. But you'll suffer too. I heard from Harriet that you still have a limp. You'll always be half a man in that sense." I shrugged. "A half man who can still tear your life apart." She hopped off the hood, stepping close enough that I smelled her perfume again. "I was going to marry you. You were safe, but you bored me. I needed a thrill. Don't pretend you hadn't lost interest. Now you want to incinerate everything just to spite me?" I locked eyes with her. "Yes, because you scorned me at my lowest." "No one humiliates me like that and walks away unscathed." She actually let out a shaky laugh. "I can't believe the sweet, eager fiancé I once knew is gone. What are you now?" "Whatever it takes," I said. "You and my entire so-called family will learn what it's like to beg for mercy." Her facade cracked. "I have no one now. Eric's gone cold. Lucy wants me dead. Harriet acts like I'm a cancer. Dad is furious at me. I'm teetering on the edge." "You did that? See you in court." She shouted after me as I left. Something about me having no soul, that I'd die alone. I greeted her curses like a sweet lullaby. Finally, the day arrived. My father's lawsuit versus me, plus my countersuit. The small courtroom buzzed with tension. In the gallery sat Harriet, Norman, and a scattering of relatives. Eric lingered near the back, face pale. Vanessa was absent. Rumor said she'd had a breakdown and refused to appear, terrified of public shame. Dad's lawyer argued that I'd knowingly sabotaged a wedding contract, that I was unstable and accused fiancé-y and brother of imaginary misconduct. They tried painting me as paranoid. They demanded I pay them for lost deposits, emotional distress, and damage to their social standing. Marjorie responded with brutal precision. She displayed dozens of text messages from Eric to Vanessa referencing their affair. She revealed my father's repeated attempts to coerce me to marry for appearance's sake. She read out Harriet's voice notes where Mom ridiculed me for wanting basic post-surgery help. She included Lucy's affidavit about Eric's adultery. Then she hammered home the timeline of how they left me alone, ignoring my medical condition, all to enjoy a ski trip while my fiancé-y and brother shared a bed. The crowd was dead silent. When the judge, an older woman with a stern gaze, looked at Dad, he was white as a sheet. She asked, "So you're claiming your son invented these messages?" Dad stammered. "They might be doctored. We're not sure." But Lucy was there, sworn in. She testified everything was real. She had the original phone. She confirmed Eric left the ski lodge early, meeting Vanessa at a nearby inn. My father's claims collapsed like wet cardboard. The judge dismissed their suit with prejudice, calling it an appalling misuse of the court's time. She openly scolded my father for trying to force a wedding to recoup deposits. Then she turned to me, awarding a modest sum to cover my legal fees and partial damages for emotional harm. Nothing astronomical, but the public humiliation was priceless. Dad's expression was pure shock. Harriet buried her face in her hands. Eric slumped, trembling. Norman stormed out, cursing about wasted money. It was over. They lost not just the legal case, but the shining veneer of an intact, respectable family. Word traveled fast among our social circles. My father reaped the humiliation he feared. Harriet tried spinning a narrative that I was mentally unstable, but the evidence was too strong. Extended relatives who once worshipped them began whispering about the cruelty they'd inflicted on me. Eric retreated to a dingy apartment after Lucy's divorce filing hit him with demands for spousal support. Vanessa vanished into some rumored facility, possibly for depression or a rest cure, though I didn't confirm. Norman paid monstrous cancellation fees for the wedding. Harriet and David faced social ostracism from their country club group. Their house was rumored to be up for sale to offset legal bills. As for me, I used the awarded funds to further my physical therapy and rent a better place. Naomi remained supportive. Lucy and I parted ways amicably, each relieved to break from that twisted circle. Did I ever feel guilt for shattering my family? At times, faintly. Then I remembered them leaving me crippled in a basement, hooking up behind my back and spitting in my face. That fleeting guilt faded fast.